Okay, my name's Ken Hart. I was born here on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I'm a full-blood Lakota, and I started doing this kind of work from 1999, and I had to go through a lot of different issues in order to get this started in the situations that we're in, to get it explained to the people and to some of our Oyate. That's a hardship. That hardship is some of us went through a system, and that system is this federal system. And before I went through that, I would never pay attention. I wouldn't listen to our people. I wouldn't listen to our grandmas, grandpas. I was one of these Cante guys that didn't care and did whatever he wanted to do. I didn't know there was consequences involved. I had grandpas that used to tell me things, but I didn't pay attention. I wasn't listening. 1997, I ended up in a federal system, and I took a plea bargain and I pled guilty, and I felt like I was guilty for what I did, and which was distribution of 2 grams of marijuana. I did 18 months, 3 years paper, and I thought it was over with, done, and I admitted my guilt because I felt guilty that I did that. But yet something kept bothering me. Things weren't going good. I was hearing people through the system, people that were locked up, people that were on their way to the big house. I was listening to everybody that was going through the same thing. That same thing is a federal system. And then in 1999, why, I don't know, but we call it another number. By another number is you pick up another charge. When you pick up another charge, for some other reason, this charge, I didn't feel like I was guilty. I didn't feel like I committed a crime. But yet, through the federal system, you're appointed a public defender. A public defender is paid by the federal government to represent you. As I picked up the second charge and I was going through this in 1999, I started realizing things that were going on, and I felt like my guilt. I needed to fight this case because I wasn't guilty. But yet we had a public defender that couldn't really help us. He wanted us to plead guilty. Whether you were guilty or not, they want you to plead guilty. That's their easy way of out of representing you. And to make the story short, from there, I had a legal attorney come out of California, and he wanted to represent me pro bono. He said, I'm interested in the federal government. I want to know how they operate. I want to know why there's so many crimes, why there's so many violence. And as I sat there and I listened to this attorney, I agreed, you represent me, I will plead not guilty. We will find out what was going on through the federal system. So I got him as an attorney to represent me through federal court, through the Freedom of Information Act and the motion of discovery. He did a research on my behalf from 1970 to 1999. We had a crime rate on this whole reservation that involved rape, murder, assaults, all the serious crimes you could think of, and yet there was no prosecutions, there was no investigations, no one knew what was going on. This attorney said, look at your first charge, Mr. Hart, there's something here that don't look right. So under the motion of discovery, we looked at my distribution charge. My distribution charge for 2 grams of marijuana should have only carried 6 months in prison, 1 year probation. But at the time, I was not told and I didn't know, and my public defender didn't tell me that the confidential informant was a child molester. So by the time I picked up the second number, that attorney found that evidence under the motion of discovery. And when we found that out, we found out that this certain gentleman has already raped 2 or 3 people already, and it was the federal government that would wire him up and send him on the reservation. As he went around the reservation, our people are getting picked up left and right. This attorney says this agent that is representing this informant is in charge of these murder investigations, these assaults investigations. Something is not right here. Why is this one agent have done a field investigation from 1970 to 1999? This certain agent is a classmate of the 2 FBI agents that got killed at Jumping Bull Hall. He made it a point to stay on the reservation and investigate any Indian crime under the Major Crimes Act. 99, I went back through the system And as I went through the system, we discovered that majority of our Native Americans were getting incarcerated at a very high rate. And as at a high rate, I felt like something wasn't right. And this attorney helped me. By helping me, he did his own investigation, and he said, there's something not right here on this reservation. We need to get the Justice Department involved. We need to get some of these issues looked into. And I agreed with him. Okay, you help me, we will do it. And as we proceeded to do this, the Oyate, the people, started gathering, and they started bringing their stories, what they've been through, what their family members been through. And the point that I would like to make is that I feel like our federal government is targeting our people for what may have happened in the 1800s. It's never went away. We're still being targeted, and a lot of our older people still call them the long knives, because in prosecutions we don't get legal equal representation. So now that we got back into this area of helping our people and listening and trying to bring the attention to our representatives, to the people we elect to speak on our behalf, is when I started noticing the corruption, I noticing the embezzlement, the fraud. And as I work with the elderly, they tell me this is a puppet government. IRA government is under the federal government. The federal government are the ones that pull the strings on what happens on federally recognized land, which is what we are on, this Lakota reservation. So by working with the Oyate, it took us 13 years to spread the word on what's going on. And we finally got to this point. In the last 3 years, we are gathering as the Lakota Oyate to bring all these issues to the forefront, to where we want to eliminate IRA, which is affecting our treaty obligations in such as healthcare, education, and welfare. Our people are suffering, they're misdiagnosed, our healthcare is not what it's supposed to be, our education ain't what it's supposed to be, our welfare, our people don't have nowhere to live, they have nothing. Those are all treaty obligations. And the federal government likes it when our people fight amongst each other over these obligations. But if united, the Oyate united, we could come up on and remove this system and form another governing body for the Oyate in each district where we won't have an IRA government. That's what the Oyate they want. And that's who I speak for, is the Oyate. I was picked by the people to speak for them through a ceremony that was told to us, that I was given a voice to speak for the people. For the help that you give to the people is the help that you're going to get back. So I am the voice, and that's how I can help our people, being the voice for our people. And that's how I am. And that's why we are Cante Oyate. We've been 13 years strong, young and old. We're all together. That's the heartbeat of the people, which is the heartbeat of the drum. That's us, the Lakota Oyate. If we ever lose that heartbeat, we're going to lose that drum beat. That drum beat is the Lakota culture of our people. So we have to keep the heartbeat and the drum beat going together all the time. And that's the heartbeat of the Oyate, the people. Okay, as far as being in these situations, I've spoken for our Oyate in situations in court cases involving child custody, a lot of different issues where a lot of our people were treated unfairly through the court system. And to me, that was violation right there. And I brought those issues up. And we had removed tribal judges that were, well, I shouldn't say tribal judges, I should say 2 tribal judges that were really going against our Oyate. So as we got them removed, we ended up getting fallen into the politics area, where we seen our corrupted officials pocketing money, embezzling money, spending money. And as I brought questions and asked questions, certain representatives didn't like these issues. It got to a point where we elected a lady chairman for our reservation, and this lady chairman was going to go and start an abortion here on our reservation. Our elderly agree that we shouldn't do that, and as me for the spokesman for them, we brought the issue up, and with the surrounding Oyate's help and other people's help, we had her impeached and removed. We had another chairman put in place, and as we started breaking the ice cubes down into little places where corruption was involved, I noticed things started happening to me. Within the last 3 years, I've had windows broken out of my house. I had my trailer house taken away by this council that's elected, which was my home. I had my house burnt down with all my sacred stuff, which would be my chanupa, my Sundance equipment, my staff, all burnt down in a house, which is arson, no investigation, nothing's ever happened. And those are what I go against for speaking for the Oyate, but I'm a believer that as I speak and as I speak the truth, none of those will bother me, because I'd rather see the help go to our Oyate, and the help will come back in time. As us Lakotas believe, good things come in a circle, and what goes around comes around. So I believe that whatever happened may have been bad in my way towards me, but I forgive these people, because it's the hardest thing any Lakota could do, is forgive each other. If we can't forgive, then we can never get along. So I forgave these people, and I still talk about the same issues, which regards everything from housing to any kind of assistance, maybe for a meal, maybe for some help. So for the last 2 years, speaking for the Oyate, I have lived in this van for 2 years, but I will keep on living in that van, because I'd rather see our people get a home. When the time for me to get a home, that time will come. But until that time, I will keep speaking for the Oyate so they could get a home.